Okay, so I figured I'd record a little tutorial. That way you guys can watch the video at your own pace, pause it at any time. If you do have questions with any of this stuff, feel free to send me an email or just pop in during office hours. And now, we have a dataset on Blackboard called grades.csv. Just download that, load that up. You'll notice we have two columns, minutes and grade. What we'll want to do for this assignment is we'll firstly create a scatter plot using Python, and then we're going to try and find a line of best fit for the scatter plot. Or the more professional term would be we're going to create a simple linear regression model to make predictions based on the data that we have. Okay, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new environment in Anaconda. I'll call it simple linear regression. Sorry guys, I'm having a stroke. We'll do Python 3.10.16. Um, if that is not available to you, okay, let's see, what's the issue? Okay, I'll just call it simple. Um, if again, if that option isn't available to you, just choose the most recent one. It's not going to make much of a difference. If you had a previous environment set up when we were working together, you can just go ahead and boot that up. Okay, we'll give it a few seconds. Okay, let's go ahead and install Jupyter Notebook. Let's go ahead and launch this. All right, so um, we'll start by creating a repo for our projects. Let's call it stats projects, and we'll create a new Python file. We will call it, let's call it linear oops, model. Okay, so before we do anything, we need to install a few libraries. If you're not familiar with this, libraries are a collection of functions, and the functions are essentially just pre-written code that's gonna help us not have to write everything from scratch. Okay, so we'll do pip install. The first library we're gonna use is pandas. Okay, pandas is the de facto library to work with data frames. Data frames is kind of just jargon for table. Anytime we have to use data, manipulate data, we're gonna go with pandas. We'll also install matplotlib. Now this is gonna help us graph that scatter plot. And then the final one we'll install is sklearn. Okay, this is probably the most popular machine learning library out there. We're gonna essentially, instead of coding our own linear model from scratch, we're just gonna import the one from this library and train it with our data. Okay, so we'll wait for this to install. I guess something else I should mention: to run code, you hold Shift and you press Enter. And to build a good habit, we'll start commenting our code. So whenever you have a little hashtag here, this just means that the machine will ignore this line, so you can write whatever you want and it won't mess with your code. And usually it's good practice to describe what you're doing, so that if other people look at your program, they have an idea of what's happening. So we'll just write installing libraries. Okay. Now that those libraries have installed, we need to import them. So we'll do import pandas speedy. We'll import matplotlib. Oops. Now, matplotlib's configuration is a little bit weird. We'll do matplotlib.pyplot, and I know we'll do a plot. And then, finally, from sklearn, we'll import their linear model, which is just linear model. Okay? And again, let me just comment this. Importing libraries. Okay. Now that we have our libraries imported, there's a few things we need to do. The first thing we need to do is we need to create a data frame. Okay. And we need to load up data from grades.csv. So we will create a data frame that Jupyter Notebook can use. and we'll load up the data from our grades.csv into this. And the way we do that is we'll call it our base data frame. We'll do panda.read CSV. Oops, sorry, there's an underscore here. And we will reference the address of grades.csv. So if I look here, I right click, we go to properties. I'm going to have the address. Okay, we're gonna paste that between quotation marks. What those quotation marks do is it turns whatever I feed into a string, so that Jupyter Notebook can actually read this. Now we need double backslashes. Okay, and this is grades.csv. Now, what this will do is it will reference the address and it will essentially create a data frame, a table with the data from grades.csv. Just to be safe, we'll print it and see if it actually works. So we'll print our base data frame, and you'll notice exactly what we have with our regular grades.csv. Okay. Now we have our data. Let's, I guess, make our scatter plot first. So we'll create a scatter plot. The first thing we'll do is we'll do a title. So we'll do plot.title. Let's do minutes versus grades. And then we'll label our x-axis. So we'll do x label. Let's do minutes studied. And then let's plot. Oh, sorry. Let's label our y-axis. We'll do. I guess let's just do grades. If you were to run this code, notice we have our title, our axis label, but we need to actually feed in the data so I can pull it. So what we will do is we'll do plot.scatter, and then if I look at my data set, x, it's labeled minutes. So we'll do our base data frame. Dot minutes, and then we'll do our base data frame dot grades. And there we go. We have our scatter plot. Now, we can do a few things. If we wanted to, for example, we could change the color. I don't know, let's do red. Okay. We could also change the symbol instead of being dots. I guess let's just do a plus sign. Okay. So there's three things you can play around with here. But now that we have our scatter plot done, okay, let's build this model. Before we build the model, if you look at the configuration from the sklearn library, we need two things. Okay, we need to create a dictionary, which I will talk about shortly, that has our independent variable data, and then we need to create another dictionary that has our dependent variable data. So obviously, if I look here, grades are affected by how much you study. So our independent variable is going to be minutes. So we'll say prepare independent variable. And let's see here. So we'll create a new data frame. We'll say it's the minutes data frame. And there's two ways of doing it. The first thing we can do is we could take this data frame and drop the grades column. Okay. So let's do this real quick. So what we'll do is we'll do base data frame dot drop, and we are going to drop grades. Okay. Oops, sorry, I have an extra parentheses here. This essentially gets rid of. Let me see here. Oops. And then let me just print this real quick. And then it's data frame. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, okay. I forgot about this. So, whenever you do drop a frame, you kind of have to label it correctly. So we'll do axis equals column. And this should work. And we know this with drop grades. Or the easiest way to do this, which we'll do it with our dependent variables, which is grades. We'll create a new data frame. And it's super simple. We just do our base data frame. Wrong brackets. And we do grades. Okay, and if we go ahead and print this, there we go. Okay, so I mean, you could do either drop whichever one you don't need, or create a new data frame, just using the columns that you do want to use. All right, so we have our independent variable data. We have our dependent variable data. This is what we call a dictionary. It's a table with just a single, I guess, data column. The other column is just our index. Okay, now we'll create our model. And the way we'll do this, we'll do model. We've already imported linear models. So linear model dot, and we want linear regression. Um, and just to, I guess, give you guys some idea, whenever I'm doing dot, that's me using a function in those libraries. For example, when I do pandas dot read CSV, this is just a function in the pandas library. When I do plot.title, a function in matplotlib. Okay, but we'll do model linear model dot linear regression. Am I missing? Yeah, we'll do. And now we kind of have our model. We need to feed it our data. So we'll do model dot fit, and we will just pass on our data. So we'll do our minutes data frame, and we'll do a grades data frame, and we'll run this. You'll see this little box here. This just means everything's good. You might see a little error code here. As long as this thing shows up, you're good. Okay, so don't worry about that error code. Now we're pretty much done. We have a model. We've fed it our data, and we can kind of just play around with it. I guess the first thing we could do is let's predict the score if we studied I don't know. Let's do 70 minutes. Okay. So if we studied 70 minutes, all we really want to do is, I guess, let's just call it predicted grade. We'll do model dot predict. We need to feed it an array. We'll do 70, and then let's just print that. And there we go. We get a predicted score of 85.4, whatever. If I look at this, seems like it would be right. Because if we had studied an hour, we got an 80. 70, 85 seems okay to me. There's a few things that you might be wondering. For example, what about our correlation coefficient or slope? So if you want the correlation coefficient, if I could freaking type. Okay, so if we want a correlation coefficient, all we have to do is we'll print we'll do model dot coef underscore, and this would be our correlation coefficient. We'll do our intercept. So intercept, we would do model dot intercept underscore, and that would be a y-intercept. Okay. So now that we have a model, okay, we can see that we can make predictions. I'll teach you guys a few other very useful tools. The first one is let's try and make predictions for a few more entries. Instead of doing them separately, so instead of typing this every time and predicting each one of them, let's do this. We'll create a new data frame with, I guess, new minutes data. Okay. Once we have that data frame, and let's do this too. Let's write this data frame as a CSV file, just so that I can show you guys how to actually do this. And then, yeah, so to do this, we'll create an array. Okay, I'm gonna do this a bit weird. Okay, let's do it this way. We will do this one first. So we will write a CSV file. Let's do this. We'll write a CSV file with minutes data. Okay, so we'll need a new library for this. This library is called CSV, and let's create an array called minutes data, and let's test. Let's see here. So minutes go from 20 to 60. Let's do 65. Let's do 80. Let's do 90. And then let's do, I don't know, let's do 25. Let's do 15. And then let's do 10. Okay? Now, we'll have to write a function that essentially creates a CSV file. There's a few things that we're going to need for this function. We'll need this array. We'll need an address for the file. I'm going to call this file name because it'll help us out save the file name as well. So let's see here. Maybe I will just have it in the downloads folder. So let's do this. Double. And we'll call this minutes data. Okay. So the way this function works, we'll do with open. We'll feed it a few parameters. So we'll feed it file name. We need to set mode, which we will set to W, and then what else do we need? We need new line, and we'll save that as file. Okay, so then we'll do create a writer. Pass in our file parameters. We'll do writer. Let's write our header first. We're only looking at minutes here, so let's do minutes. Okay, that'll just be our header. Now we need to write our actual data, so I guess let's just do this. Let's do a for loop. We'll do minutes. Oops. Then we will do, let's see, we want writer.write row. And then we want each of those minutes. So just do it. Okay. This should hopefully work. Let's see, invalid syntax. This needs to be let's see now. Okay, so let's see here. CSV. Oh, I think this should be writer. Okay, so this should have created a new, and there we go, a minutes data. 65, 80, 90, 25, 15, 10. Right, now that we have this, okay, we'll just load up this data set into a new data frame. So we'll do a minute data frame. And then let's do, oops, sorry, we'll do pandas dot read CSV. We'll feed it the address. Okay, so now we should have a new minutes data frame, and now we can make predictions with those. So all we really have to do is, let's see, oops, let's do make predictions with data, 1 minutes data frame. So we would do, I guess let's just call it predictions. So model dot predict, and we'll do minutes data frame, and then let's just print this so we have an idea if it's correct. And let's see here. Okay, I have it as minute, so name don't match. I'm gonna just do this. What's wrong here? So let's see. This. All right, and there we go. So now we have our predictions. But maybe we want it to be a bit nicer. So let's do this. Let's add it to this data frame. Okay, so if I were to look at this data frame, okay, let's add the new columns to this data frame. We'll call it grades. So let's do, what do we call it? Minute data df. Let's do, what should we call it? Nice, we'll use the grades. Okay, and then we'll feed it our predictions. And now if we print our minute data, there we go. We now have a new data frame with our new minutes and all of our predictions, right? And I guess maybe we'll write it. I think that's fine. Maybe we'll leave that for another time. But that's pretty much it. Okay, we installed all our libraries. We imported our data. We created a scatter plot. We prepped our data for a linear model. We trained our linear model. Okay, we created a new data set to make predictions. We fed it into our model, and we have our final um, predictions. Okay. Again, I'm gonna post something on Blackboard with the assignment you're supposed to do. If you have any questions, let me know. One quick thing I